Hello folks. In this session, let us go over Layer 7 gateway migration using Graphman, which is a new feature. Also, we'll be integrating that and automating that as part of a Jenkins pipeline. Let's review the agenda. So the agenda will be use case walkthrough, followed by the Graphman feature itself. I'll also be highlighting the repositories that I'll be using as part of this demonstration. Explaining the Jenkins pipeline, followed by showcasing the source and target gateways, and then getting into the demo using Jenkins pipeline. Now, as I mentioned, the goal for this demonstration is to showcase how I'm migrating few folders and proxies from source gateway along with its dependence to the target gateway. And also decorating the target gateway with target specific classified properties, user, FIPS, SSL key, and trusted certificate. While I do this, I also want to highlight there is some prerequisites, both show source as well as target API gateways need to have the Graphman assertion preloaded, and also we should be ready with the Graphman command line utility retrieved and available. Now, a few sentences on Graphman feature. Graphman is a next-gen migration utility introduced by Layer7 engineering team. This API lets you retrieve full or partial gateway configuration from Layer7 gateway with Graphman running on it, bundle configuration for the purpose of applying configuration as a code and applying configuration to the gateway. This client abstracts out the GraphQL API layer by providing commands to perform the common Graphman operations. Custom GraphQL queries is also feasible, but as I mentioned earlier, Graphman comes with two different types of client. One is the command line utility, which you will be seeing as part of this demonstration. Another one is the Postman client, which is API based but GraphQL. And if our users are there who wants to play around with the custom GraphQL queries, they can go ahead and leverage that. So that's it from Graphman features point of view. From a repository point of view, for the sake of demonstration, I'll be using two different repos. So one is the Graphman client repo. Another one is the target gateway repo. In the Graphman client repo, as you see in the second section, where it consists of modules, queries, JavaScript files, and also the shell commands and everything is there. This is the one which I'll be retrieving as part of the Jenkins pipeline from this private repo, and then using that as a base for the command to execute import and export from a source to target and all those kind of stuff. The following one is the target specific repo, where I have this repository where I have created target specific JSON that specifies class-wide property specific to target, FIPS specific to a target, or SSL with a webhook using Git repo. If I could have created one more repo for the source repository where someone pushing and committing the source folders into the source repository itself would have triggered this. But since I want to emphasize Graphman commands, I'm trying to showcase the features and capabilities. So what I did was I'm directly, as part of the Jenkins pipeline, I'm exporting components and dependencies from the source and then using that content to import it into target. So that's why I'm not fully automating it from a source repository point of view, but from a Graphman point of view, I'm just emphasizing this. Next, This is the actual Jenkins pipeline flow at the bottom, what you see, but an explanation has been given on above where, as I mentioned, I'm two repositories. One is the Graphman client, another one is target specific repository. What I do is first I'm retrieving or getting all the Graphman client components from that repo, and then using that I'm leveraging source gateway and exporting the required folders and proxies and dependencies from of the source gateway, so that I can get them all individually compiled into a simple JSON files, and then I can export them as a source components into the target specific, so that in future if I want I can directly pull everything from a target specific repository and use and avoid the export itself. But as part of the process for now, I'm directly using the source gateway dependencies into the target gateway, and then I also retrieve the target specific classified properties, SSL keys, trusted certificate, user info, and all those things into target gateway one by one. And finally, I'm completing the migration. And that's what happening at the bottom. A little bit more detail where you can use necessary for this execution. Here, Node.js is necessary for the Graphman command line utility to run, so that's why I'm installing it. Then followed by retrieving Graphman client from the repository, then executing the export from the source, and then importing it into the target. Then I'm retrieving target specific components like classified properties, user, FIPS, trusted certificate, and all those kind of things. And then I'm adding one by one all these components to the target and decorating it. And finally, I'm exploding the bundle that is from the source, and then pushing those latest and greatest changes from the source into the target specific repo itself, and then finally sending out an email that migration is completed. Next one. In my use case, I'm leveraging two gateway clusters. One is the source gateway and another one is the target gateway cluster. And in the source gateway as well as the target gateway, as I mentioned earlier, we have bootstrapped with the Graphman API bundle assertion. I'm also, from a source gateway point of view, I'm exporting migration and PKA challenge, two different folders and its dependencies. Similarly, if you see in the target, I'm importing those folders and challenges, PKA challenge and migration folders and dependencies, and also decorating it with classified properties, user and FIPS and a key and trusted cert that is very specific to the target. Both the source and this as well as the target gateways are in GCP environment, two different clusters, two different namespace, and both of them I also have a Nginx controller, ingress controller, and I have ingress associated with both of this, and it is an SSL pass-through. And also I'm using Cert Manager for certificate and Let's Encrypt as an issuer. This is my environment details. So let us jump into migration. Before getting into migration, I will be showcasing actual demo. I will be showcasing the source and target gateway current status. And once I complete the migration, I will be refreshing the target gateway and showing the status. So let's get into source and target gateway and then jump into the Jenkins part. As I mentioned earlier, both the source and target gateways going to have bootstrapped with the GraphQL assertion, and that's what you're seeing here. And also these are the folders which I'll be migrating, where one of them will have the host information about the gateway, and another one will be having a new cluster-wide property that I'll be adding. Since that information is not existing in the source, it will not return any response, whereas in the target it will be returning a very specific response based on the target information. Um, and also, this is a very specific user. That user doesn't exist in the source, so whenever I try this, it's going to give me an exception saying that user not found, whereas in target, it should provide me success because that particular user will exist in target after decorating it. Similarly, this is a mutual TLS with the gateway where federated user certificate has been used for authorization. There will be a FIPS that I'll be adding, and I also will be adding a third party which will be added to the target gateway to complete the flow. So now, before jumping to the demo, let's review the status of the target gateway. This is my target gateway, and in the target gateway, as I said, the prerequisite of bootstrapping the GraphQL assertion is available already, and currently there is only one single user who is the admin, and there is no third-party signing certificate. Um, it's only having one certificate that is pertaining to the gateway, and there is no FIPS and there is no other folders at this point. Uh, Let me do the migration and then I'll do the refresh and get back to see the status. I also want to showcase the Graphman repository, which I was mentioning. The Graphman client, this is what being pulled as part of the Jenkins pipeline, where we have the modules. We also have the queries, GraphQL queries, and also the schema and the JavaScript and the shell command that starts and the configuration that goes with. So all those details have been here as part of this repo. This has been used where I pull in the command Graphman client and use this as part of the pipeline flow. I also have another repository which I'm using, as I mentioned, for the target specific components. So this is where I have a target specific cluster wide property where I have the cluster host which I amend, and I also have the target environment, which is a new cluster wide property I'll be adding. This is related to the FIPS and user, which is B Radhakar I'll be adding. With this said, let's get into the demonstration now. So at this point, I'm going to log in into my Jenkins. Once I sign in, this is the Graphman demo build pipeline that I have created. Let me go ahead and start, schedule a build now. So as I mentioned, it installs the required tools, which is Node.js for the Graphman client to execute, command line commands to be executed, and now it retrieved the Graphman client from the repository. It exported the folders, required folders from the source, and imported that into the target. Then it retrieved the target specific JSONs which I showed you, and then it applies them one by one. Finally, it explores the source gateway and then imports that into the target repo, and then finally it sends out an email after completing the demonstration. This is the email that I have received as part of thing. It says the migration is complete, and this is the target gateway. Please refer the link for any kind of console output you want to see. Now let me take you to the gateway itself. At this point, I'm going to refresh. Now if you see, I have brought back the folders, both the migration as well as PK challenge. It also added the FIPS, which I was mentioning, along with the third-party signed certificate, and it also should have added the user. Apart from admin, now B Radhakar is also being added. Now let me take you to an Postman kind of a tool, which is PAR, to execute these endpoints and see whether it works for us. We are in the final segment of this demonstration. If you see here, I have a source gateway as well as the target gateway. Um, and as part of the source gateway, I'm executing the gateway info, which brings back the cluster-wide host information. Initially, it was source.security.broadcast.com, but when I execute this from a target point of view, it should have changed as part of my migration flow. Now it says target.security.broadcom.com. Similarly, the environment detail, which I was trying from a source, you could see there is nothing coming back, even though it's a successful response, because that particular cluster-wide property is empty there or non-existing there. Now, when I try to do the same from a target where I added this cluster-wide property and amended the content, now it says this is existing in GCP, the namespace detail, the target detail, the ingress information, so issue and information and all those kind of information. Now, similarly, this particular user B Radhakar is not existing in the source. So when I try, it's going to come back with an exception that B Radhakar is not found. But when I try the same user in the target, because I added this user, it's going to be successful now. Finally, on the PKI challenge, I'm sending the certificate which has been signed by the third party, which has been uploaded as part of federated client authorization. It comes back successful, saying this mutual TLS with the API gateway is also successful because I added along with the endpoint the FIPS as well as the trusted certificate. So folks, this concludes this demo on Layer 7 API gateway migration using Graphman inside Jenkins pipeline. See you soon.